This video is going to be really different from our other videos on this channel, but we're going to answer frequently asked questions we see our viewers asking us and share our plans for the future. Question 1. When are you releasing your game, because it seems like you're never actually going to release one? When we premiered our first video, we stated that we were a game studio even though we knew we weren't going to be releasing a game anytime soon. From the beginning, we admitted we paused the production of our game because we had found too many issues in modern graphics. So a new goal was formed. We decided that we couldn't make a game until improvements were made, and those improvements would not happen until there was somehow an increase in industry and consumer awareness. There was no voice saying the things that needed to be said. We didn't want to have to be that voice, but if we were going to ever release an amazing game, it had to be done. And so the Threat Interactive channel was born. But our ultimate goal is to one day release a game that would meet our high standards and live up to our vision for what the true potential of what gaming should be right now. We don't want to be like other studios. We see other game producers and it's like watching them shove their own ideas inside this Fortnite-shaped box or squeeze their projects into Unreal's arbitrary strengths. I recently saw one person bragging about how performant their rainy fog scene was inside Unreal, when it was just mediocre. That's just plugging a scene that plays into Unreal's basic capabilities. Actual games are vastly incompatible with Unreal's fundamental tools, and the industry suffers from that. Question 2. What is the status of the modified Unreal Engine fork? Our YouTube and Patreon revenue as of right now contribute to our basic cost of living, and all of that just barely sustains keeping our YouTube videos going. Our long-term goal is to start making a surplus of income via merge and more content creation to put towards our own game development, which will help us initiate investor meetings for the completion of our game and the $900K R&D graphics development budget, which includes our game's custom Unreal Engine / related patches and plugins. Even though we haven't reached the financial surplus we need for such ambitious development, because of your support through the production of these videos, we've already made changes to Unreal and the industry as a whole. A lot of our attackers are trying to downplay this, but the Unreal Engine community has been lobbying for almost 8 to 9 years for SMA to be integrated into Unreal. And the only thing that changed in the last few years of lobbying that caused SMA to finally be integrated was our loud and clear voice expressed through these videos. Even if we can't make enough to fund graphics development, your support for this channel will improve core engines like Unreal, and as a result, competing engines will align their developments with the progress we all help to organize. Question 3. Are you going to keep making videos? One of the reasons why we create these videos is because they help outline our vision for affordable, realistic graphics and general game development. These ideas are difficult to explain in typical conversation, especially in an interview setting when the other person may not be familiar with what we're trying to accomplish. Some people nitpick the effort, saying we should stop making videos and just make a game. But from our full perspective, jumping straight into public development would be a waste of time. There are still too many core ideas, goals, and terminology that need to be defined. These videos serve as both a foundation and a form of training for my future development team, and for the thousands of studios who don't have what it takes to create a graphics vision. Right now everyone's talking about how great the shadows look in Decima Engine. We have to discuss why they look great and what in Unreal needs to be changed to achieve similar quality. And another one of the reasons why we do these videos is because we learn a lot from these analyses. Even the unoptimized games we cover in terms of what to not do for our own game. I remember Kaz Manuar saying something similar on why he makes Nintendo 64 videos, because they help him learn how to improve his own game. My team and I relate to that completely. For example, in our Silent Hill 2 video, we had a small conclusion on grass rendering, and since then we've studied Days Gone, KCD2, and have spoken with experts in foliage rendering, which have helped us to provide improved ways to approach foliage in our last video. Beyond training and helping support our living needs, these videos also exist because the content creation space desperately needs them. I make the kind of videos that I would want to watch. I don't feel like watching some dude talk about how graphics are fundamentally boring and they don't matter compared to gameplay. I can't watch some NVIDIA-sponsored spokesperson worship the fake innovation of path tracing without even understanding how butchered the modern rasterization pipeline is. What I always needed other content creators to say, we say here. Because we have the actual tools, data, and perspective to open the dialogue around these topics. That's why our content is so eye-opening for so many people, and why Threat Interactive stands out as one of the most unique voices in modern game graphics. Question number 4. Are you going to release a UE5 course? We're not a UE5 dev channel. A big part of our audience doesn't use Unreal and many are not developers, so dropping a straight up UE5 tutorial wouldn't serve many of our viewers. Our developer teaching approach is more subtle. When we show a rendering inefficiency, we teach consumers how that's occurring, but with enough context the developers watching can recognize the advice and apply it in their settings or engine. We don't believe education should be locked behind a paywall either. Question number 5. Didn't you just burn bridges and blacklist yourself by criticizing the industry? There are a lot of people out there saying I've destroyed my career and that I'm going to be blacklisted from the industry, and I used to worry a little about that, especially early on, but what's funny is that the exact opposite happened. Since starting Threat Interactive, I've actually gained more industry connections than I ever imagined. I get frequent offers to help with other people's games and tons of sponsorship opportunities, but the truth is that most of them don't align with my goals. I'm focused on building my game, and I'm not interested in promoting games I wouldn't personally play or buy. I don't really play most modern games anymore, not because I'm bitter, but because they simply don't meet my standards in gameplay and graphic fidelity. That's why I started making my own game, to create the kind of game that I would play. Over the years, my standards have gotten higher, and I've only gotten more precise about what I want, and I know a lot of people feel the same way even if they don't know it. That unmet demand is what pushed me into game development in the first place. The biggest takeaway I want people to understand from this is speaking honestly about the problems in the industry didn't get me blacklisted. It actually opened doors. And if there's something important you feel needs to be said, say it. Don't let fear of backlash stop you. Before Threat Interactive, the conversations around modern graphics were really frustrating. They felt hopeless, like nobody cared and nothing was going to change. But now, thanks to the content we've been putting out, developers and consumers do care. They're thinking differently and learning now. Seeing how much the conversation has shifted in just a year is incredibly rewarding, and it's only going to get better with every video we release. Question 6. Couldn't you have just been more polite and professional instead of calling things out so directly? I need people to understand something. I spent almost a full year giving Epic Games polite, constructive feedback, especially on Lumen and TSR. I went out of my way to be respectful and professional, hoping that approach would lead to change, but I was ignored. Epic developers either downplay the issues I raised or blame them on things like video compression. Let's be clear, there was a nicer way to do it and I tried it for an entire year and it got us nowhere. Now, suddenly things are changing. The attitude, the directness, the videos, that's what finally got results. So don't kid yourself into thinking that staying quiet and polite will magically get problems solved. Sometimes real change requires serious pressure. You have to speak up, and yes, sometimes even be angry to get your concerns taken seriously. Question 7. What do you have to say to your critics? If you can prove me wrong, do it. You haven't because you can't. You can't undo truth, you can't put the cat back in the bag. Some of my critics admit they can't even prove me wrong. They admit to hating me because they don't like my stronger personality. When you gain any kind of public attention, you find out who your real friends are. I've had so many so-called friends clumsily stab me in the back and position themselves as my enemies. And I forgive them, because I'm not trying to make personal enemies. I'm doing this to force the gaming industry into what it should be. I am very passionate, and believe it or not, I do try to be tactful, patient, and calm. So to my critics, I say prove me wrong, or just stay out of my way.